Another important difference between employees' termination entitlements under the common law versus the Employment Standards Act is that employees are only entitled to reasonable notice under the common law as long as they're unemployed or haven't otherwise already started actively earning income. So common law reasonable notice is very much a contractual entitlement. And the courts say when the employer owes an employee common law reasonable notice, they have the obligation to keep the employee whole financially with regard to what the employee would have earned had they stayed with the employer for that period of time. So now using the 6-month reasonable notice example, the employee who's entitled to 6 months of reasonable notice is entitled to 6 months of whatever compensation they would have earned had they stayed working for their employer for the next 6 months' time. So the basic entitlement is to whatever salary, wages, bonus, if any, benefits, everything that they would have received had they been actively working for that 6-month period, they're supposed to be getting, unless they've signed a contract or other document otherwise, which isn't illegal. This often arises in the context of bonuses. A lot of employers will have employees sign documents saying that they agree that they don't earn a bonus if their employment terminates, or that they're not entitled to be paid it. So sometimes these documents are legal and enforceable, sometimes they're not. It depends largely on whether or not the bonus that the employee is entitled to is formulaic and follows a certain metric, or if it's completely discretionary. If the bonus is formulaic and follows a metric, then it's more likely to be considered within the definition of wages in the Employment Standards Act. And the Employment Standards Act says that an employee has to still be paid the bonus if it falls due within their statutory termination notice period. Now, the statutory termination notice period is the period of time that equates to the employee's termination pay entitlement under the Employment Standards Act. It usually arises in the case of an employee who's terminated with immediate effect, and the employer pays them a number of weeks of termination pay. So if the termination pay that employee is due is, say, 6 weeks, the statutory termination notice period lasts for 6 weeks after the employee's employment ends.